Good afternoon. Welcome again to the SONAR Market Insights weekly webinar. Zach Strickland, our Sultan and resident expert on all things SONAR, joins today. Myself, Brad Ganane, joining again this week. And we're going to go through a few things here that are new to SONAR that we want to showcase to all of you. Open it up for some questions on anything SONAR related to the audience, and keep things quick and short, but give everyone, a little update on what's going on, Zach. So what are we going to start out with here?
All right, we're going to start off. We added our data science team. We don't give them enough credit.
They don't deserve that much credit.
Right.
Let's
they have derived a new index for us that measures detention in each market.
But what do you mean it measures detention? What does that actually mean?
So for those of you unfamiliar with detention, it is the amount of time that it takes for a trailer to get loaded or unloaded at a dock. So through our various data sources, we have figured out how long a trailer or with power is getting loaded or unloaded at a dock at any given time. And we've compiled an average of the wait time in minutes on a weekly basis. At some point we may get this to a daily number, but right now it's sitting at weekly.
So let me interrupt you again because I love to interrupt you.
Please.
So 130 minutes. I think industry standard is 2 hours on site and then detention. Does that 130 minutes mean 130 minutes after 2 hours, or what does the 130 minutes actually mean?
That is as soon as they bump the dock.
Okay.
And they're set up and ready to go. It's average of 130 minutes in the Dallas market.
Okay.
Of wait time. So chances of getting some detention charges in Dallas pretty good, but I think most carriers aren't going to take that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
and put it in your face or anything like that. But some of the things that you can kind of derive from this, I have Dallas up there because that's, a bigger market. But one of the things we noticed when looking through some of these results as they were testing it was that certain markets had a lot more detention than others. And I'll pull up a watch list here in a minute just to kind of give a list of what's going on. But Fresno, if you remember, Dallas was 130 minutes. Look at this Fresno number. And it's like insane amounts of detention, so 331 minutes. So,
and to back out too, so the detention, what's being tracked here is how are we coming up with Fresno, for example? What have our data scientists actually done to create these regions and to access this information?
So they've identified a lot of docks in the region, and so we have various data sources such as ELDs and things like that will let us know how long a trailer is spending an average amount of time at those docks without moving. So once they start moving, it's over.
Okay.
But they get set up and we see the idle time and then they move away and it's over. So 331 minutes in Fresno, which obviously is excessive, but that is due to the large number of food warehouses. I think most of us know that Fresno is a pretty agricultural area. I myself have dealt with numerous food warehouses in the Fresno Valley, Modesto and whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot of food warehouses, and I think that will definitely push a market higher.
And so two things I'd like to add. Do you mind if I cut in? Is
Please,
that okay?
It's not like I could stop you.
Okay. So our team has geofenced over 240,000 locations in the U.S. to come up with these numbers, right?
Yes, I didn't want to go that technical.
Okay, but I like to. I think it's good to know. Yeah. And then we've assigned them. So for our users, our SONAR users that are on the webinar, who are familiar with the 3-digit KMAs that we show our volumes, our reject percentages. So based off of all of those locations they've geofenced, they put them into these 3-digit zips, right?
Yep. So they mapped them to each of the markets, and now you can see that. And I'm going to build a quick watch list.
And what about drop trailers? How does that feed into these numbers?
How does that work? Yeah. So effectively, they have figured out a way, and I'm not sure of the technical details on this. Maybe you can fill us in. But they have done some work on getting the identifying which ones have power equipped to them and which ones have not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they set a parameter of number of minutes. So in order to feed into these data sets, they need to be on site a minimum of 10 minutes, but no more than, I believe it's 1,440 minutes, somewhere around there, which is a full day. So essentially, if something is pinging in these markets longer than that time period, then we're considering it a drop trailer, right? And it's being essentially taken out of this data so that it's not, the time on site is not being skewed by drop trailer, which I think is important, because I think, some of these regions that are, have large shippers that may largely affect some of these numbers, and they could be heavy drop trailer sites, right? So it's good
Absolutely.
to know that actually, drop trailer overnight or 24, 48 hours are actually not affecting these numbers.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, the overnights for sure are scrubbed out. So I pulled up the watch list, a heat map watch list of all of these in order. You can see some of the biggest detention markets there, and then you can go the other way and see some of the better ones, which I'm a little shocked that Cedar Rapids is so good. But
great.
That's what it is. So that is one of our new indices, detention. I'm going to clear out this one and move on to one of our others. So in addition to the detention thing, we have added one more kind of, I don't want to call it macroeconomic indicator, but it is the housing, it's like a housing market index, if you will, Brad.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It is
No, it's in real estate.
It is
added it into real estate.
And it's the absorption, or
no,
it's households.
It's home purchase sentiment index. Sorry, I forgot
I talked more in the first 5 minutes than I normally ever do, so I was a little sidetracked. I used all my words already, so I was also, didn't really know.
I think this one is pretty straightforward, though. Home purchase sentiment index. It's basically compiled by Fannie Mae, and every month they release this figure that basically gives us the attitude of consumers towards buying new houses, or used houses, if you will. I don't call them used houses, but
that's an interesting way to
but homes. It's basically how much is survey data, that they use to figure out how well the housing market is doing, how more, you can see back here, consumers were purchasing a lot of houses back in the spring, and they kind of lull off in the winter, which is pretty standard procedure, I'm pretty sure. And then the summer months, kids are out of school, etc. But still, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big jump, Brad.
That is a big jump.
You can see.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna draw a big trend line here.
I was gonna say,
for those of you that haven't seen us open some of these tools, I like to use some of our tools just to kind of show some of the users that may or may not know that they exist. This is a trend line feature, and you can see what it does is that it traverses. You start it, you click over here, it starts. And then where you click over here, you end it, and it will give you a percentage change and an absolute value in between, from that point to the end point. So 11.75% from, March of 2014 to April of 2018. I think that's a pretty good market.
No, definitely. And would you say it's kind of falls under the category of producer price index, kind of those economic driving, overall health of the economy, which of course has a very highly correlated with what's happening with freight volumes, and
it's very similar to that. Fannie Mae, it's not the exact same type of data, but yes, it is kind of government data, and it's going to give you, as people are buying up houses, that's going to basically indicate the economy is doing better. But not only that, but the freight market is very closely tied to construction, lumber, anything that goes into a house goes on the truck. So as people are buying houses, they're buying furniture, they're buying electronics, they're buying all sorts of stuff that goes into that house to fill it up. So as this thing goes up, you can pretty much expect the freight market to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it does have a correlation with the general freight market over the last year or so. As the economy's kind of blown up, and everybody's had more money, they're going to buy more houses. Also, you millennials,
Yeah, growing up.
Such as yourself, getting big, buying those
Getting big,
houses.
getting all grown up.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's essentially what you're seeing here. I think it is kind of interesting that it did have a little bit of an uptick in December. That's something that you don't normally associate with December, because if kids are in school, they're not really willing to relocate in the middle of school. But yep, that's happening here. And the market is still pretty good. I think that's positive for the freight market in general.
Yeah, and I think that definitely kind of goes in line with things that you've said, and Ibrahim, our chief economist, that, you know, things are slowing, not declining, but our growth, overall economic growth, is just slowing and not, you know, moving at as rapid of a pace. And I think this is just another data set that we have that kind of highlights that you know, we're still in very good standing, if you will, with this index as well, but things just maybe slowing a little bit from where they were in the past year and a half, right, where things really grew at a very high.
Yeah, it was a pretty fast, overheated economy a little bit. That's okay. I wanted to touch on one more little feature that we haven't really talked about yet. And I know some people out there utilize SONAR to kind of give presentations or to show data. We have done some reorganization over here. You used to have to do some of this stuff in your settings. We now have this in display. You can turn this to white or black, day, night, the themes now, but you can also custom some of the stuff. So your mountain color, so this down here, you can turn that red if you want. You can change this to green, you know, just to give yourself a little bit of a differentiation. Again, not a huge ad or anything like that. I just think it's pretty cool to show. We should probably talk about it a little bit just so people know that it does exist. You can change just about any color on the background here that you can think of. The candles, if you have a candle or whatnot. Grid lines, maybe you wanted to make it really pop with some green grid lines.
Whoa.
Probably not. Anyway, that's there. That's one of the newer features that we have on here for those of you that are interested in that, specifically giving you know, presentations and whatnot. There you go. So Brad, I think it's that time.
It's time. Is it time?
I think it's that time. So we're going to give a quick market recap.
Yes, and I also want to. There's a few things I want us to go over at the end of the call.
Okay.
Or at the end of the webinar. Some very exciting SONAR 3.2 things coming out very soon. Maybe out before this next webinar. Some add-ons to the map with some cameras of road conditions.
Oh, you want to do a teaser of what's coming up?
It's pretty cool stuff. It is.
All right.
But first, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I was going to go there, but I actually decided right in the middle that I'm going to do something a little different. A change up. So the Midwest this week was kind of, you know, one of the more disrupted areas due to the weather. What I found interesting, and I'm going to scroll in, this is the Chicago market outbound tender volume index. You can see it's been kind of moving contrary to the rest of the market, as the national volumes have really been down to flat since the start of the year. Chicago has really kind of ramped up here since the end of January, and has continued kind of growing a little bit, even as we've had some weather systems come across the Midwest, which does kind of make things harder.
Why is this happening?
So the reason this is happening is because people are sitting inside all the time, clicking on their Amazon account, Amazon Prime, and they're ordering a bunch of freight. But more than that, it's also Chicago is a railhead market, along with Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, over there by New Jersey, Memphis, and Atlanta. This is actually Chicago's the #1 stop coming from the West Coast. As we've talked about in the past, all those containers came into Los Angeles. There's no warehousing room left in Los Angeles. A lot of that freight has been moving intra-regionally, but also a lot of it gets on the rail in Los Angeles and then comes into Chicago. And from Chicago, it hops off the rail and then gets distributed throughout the region and also the East Coast.
Got you.
So Chicago volumes have been picking up, and I kind of want to overlay this with Los Angeles, which also has been elevated as well. Los Angeles staying a little bit more elevated, and I'm going to pull out on Los Angeles. Actually, I'm going to pull out Los Angeles all the way so you can just see. Los Angeles volumes are still super high, and a lot of this is intra-regional Los Angeles freight volume. Most of it is going in, like, either, you know, down the road to Ontario, Stockton, San Diego, Phoenix, but then there's a big portion of it that's going to get on the rail and go to Chicago, going to go to Memphis, Atlanta, and stops like that. Chicago is probably the biggest one, so that's why we're seeing a lot of that.
This is crazy.
Yeah,
This
it's
volume in January, February out of LA.
tons of it, and it's mostly short haul, and that's what I want to show you next, how I know that. So I'm going to pull up the tender rejections in the Los Angeles market. I'll try Los Angeles, and you see there's a big spike here.
Whoa.
Yeah, all of a sudden the Los Angeles market, even though it's still down at, you know, just under 3% rejection rate, which is one of the lowest in the country. A lot of the regional freight does not have the impact on capacity that you would expect, you know, but just because they're only going, you know, a couple hundred miles, a day trip here and there, they can get back to Los Angeles and it's no big deal. But one of the things that I noticed is that the short haul tender rejection index for Los Angeles is driving it.
Love it.
People are getting sick of going 100, 200 miles, which the short haul tender rejection index covers how many miles, Brad Goodname?
That would be...
You corrected me a few weeks
did.
ago, and I'm taking this out on you now.
Local is 100 miles or less.
Correct.
Short haul is going to be that segment in between local up until 250
There you
miles.
go.
There you go.
So 100 to 250 miles. Way to go, Brad.
The twinkle in your eye right now. That's all I was hoping for. I'm glad you're back to life.
Yeah.
All we need to do is talk a little bit of tender reject, a little bit of volume.
I get excited.
Throw in a short haul. There we go. The rest of the day is golden.
I get excited. So yeah, the short haul tender rejection index. Let's compare that. Let's add the LTRI, which is the long haul tender rejection index. If you want to tell our audience what that is.
That is freight shipments originating in the Los Angeles market greater than 800 miles.
That's right.
In length of haul.
And you see that number has fallen down.
And why is that?
And that's because it's all moving intra-region. Everybody wants to go a long distance because it's paying a lot more.
Oh, I set you up for your own question. You're supposed to say it doesn't matter. It's happening. That's what matters. And you can see that it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, that is truth.
Okay.
No, the whys are fun to know, and it does help in some sense, but it really doesn't matter what the why is, as long as you know that it's happening. You're right. I know back in the days as a financial analyst, it didn't matter so much the why as the what.
Fair.
So, but it is fun to know the why.
It is. I mean, that's very interesting too, that the short haul is driving it.
Yeah, the short haul tender rejection index is driving it. A lot of the carriers essentially are saying, you know what, I don't want to take your loads. And this is actually something to watch, because the as the market kind of starts heating up, going into March and things like that, people are going to stop taking these shorter moves. They're going to get sick. I mean, right now they're looking for just to keep their truck rolling. Yep. They're stuck out on the West Coast. They can't really do anything else. And eventually maybe they're going to bide their time till produce season kicks off, but that's a few months away. And so, yeah, I think it is interesting to see that short haul tender rejections are moving up. Long hauls are coming down. And, you know, the rest of the freight market is still pretty smooth.
And what does the tender market share for LA look like?
So there hasn't been much change in the market share over the last little bit. I'm going to pull up Los Angeles. I think it did kind of yesterday, of course, had a big push up. But it's been relatively fat flat. Well, it is fat because it gained a ton of market share.
Gained a ton of weight there.
Relative to the, but that's due to the major amount of outbound volume. The thing that I think is more interesting than the market share is the haul. So this head haul index value has been very inflated for a long time. Again, a lot of this is driven from that shorter haul type freight. So the market isn't really losing as much capacity as it might indicate right here. But over time, people will eventually not want to drive 150 miles down the road just to drive 150 miles deadheading back, which is essentially what they're going to have to do at this point. And then the overall market itself, tender volumes in the United States, coming back down. We saw this bottom over here probably the 3rd to 4th week of January. They have not fallen to that point again since February kind of started off. We ended up, you know, this typical end of the month push of freight. And then things kind of settled down, and I thought maybe the market had bottomed down here, and it may still have bottomed. We have yet to see that, but we're about halfway through February now. We got Valentine's Day tomorrow.
It's exciting.
A lot of chocolate gonna get shipped now. It's already been shipped out, hopefully, but yeah, right now the market itself pretty calm, kind of what we would expect in February. Pull up the tender index over the top of that on the dual this is one closer. I think 7.4 was about as low as we got with the tender index nationally. That's essentially it for this week. If you have your
I think it's perfect timing where we're at right now.
Okay.
Can we show? I don't know if we can show yet. Maybe a teaser for next week. I don't know if we can show just yet, but we have cameras that will. Go ahead. Yeah. You explain it.
No, yeah, we can talk about this. I can't show it just yet. But we can talk about it. Of a lot more sophisticated kind of weather involvement in our map feature. We're going to have cameras available so you can look and see what the road conditions are. We also are going to have a new feature where you measure the road surface temperature itself. So the reason that's significant is due to the fact that it can be snowing outside, as many of us know in the South, and it won't have a real impact on the roads. We should give this to the school systems. So
no, down here they'll just cancel school.
Yeah,
no matter
what. So we've got access to this new technology that measures road surface temperature, so you can actually tell if it's going to have a legitimate impact on the road or not. So what you'll see is a map of several roads and the markets and all this overlay. We're rehauling the map. We'll go through it in huge detail next week. But you will actually be able to see visually what road surfaces are below freezing and the ones above them. And then you click on individual areas in the map and you will be able to see to the latitude, longitude, what the surface of the road temperature is in that general area.
It's good stuff.
It was pretty big last week. I was messing around with it last week, and I could see that Chicago was right on that line of freezing and not freezing. So as you can see, when ice storms were coming through, that's a big deal. So you can see where your trucks are going to have the most issue, and you can report to your customers, get ahead of issues, make those calls to your shippers and consignees and let them know, hey, there's icy roads. And then you can actually take a screenshot and show them, I have math.
Yeah. and I know that's definitely been something that's used as going to, a DOT website, IDOT, for example.
Exactly.
And grabbing screenshots of road conditions.
I have done
but
that.
It's now available.
Yeah. I've done that exact exercise when relaying to a customer.
Wyoming.
Yeah. There's there'll be an accident sometimes sitting out on a camera that I can actually show people, and that we will have that embedded in the SONAR map feature. So yeah, stay tuned for that next week. That's a big release.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty awesome.
We're gonna have a big webinar next week.
Good. Well, this was a big webinar this week. I mean, appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you being here.
You were very engaged. I think we'll open it up here for some questions. Hopefully, we'll grab a few. If not, we'll just kind of hang on the line here for the next 5 or so minutes. And if you guys have anything, let us know. If not, definitely tune in next week at 2 Eastern for some exciting new releases. And we'll talk with you guys soon. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's all we've got for today. So Zach Strickland and Brad Ganane signing out. We'll see you guys next week.